In 2005, I was just 19 when I volunteered to go to Iraq and look for roadside bombs. My service changed my life. After 20 years, I want to help veterans tell their stories. Grab your whoopee, sit back and relax. I'm your host, Joseph Yankton, and this is Rank and File.
At some point, I don't remember if it was before or after Sapper school, the European security mission got scrubbed. And so I was kind of bummed about that, but still, going forward and going, okay, well, what do I got to do to get back to Sapper school or get qualified, or what's the next big thing that I can try? And so I'd already obviously been doing well PT-wise, and PT was one of the basic standards for the Norway's exchange. The cycle that I went through, it was a winter exchange for us. So our National Guard troops went in January of 2007. We went over there for it was closer to 3 weeks, but it was for our 2-week annual training. Mm-hmm. And it was, it was a lot of fun. I got to train like a Norwegian soldier. We got to do a host family night or two in Trondheim. That was a blast. We got to do a lot of cross-country skiing. We got to learn some winter survival skills. We got to shoot some of their guns. And we even got to see how they do the biathlon, which was a new experience for me. I've never done a biathlon before.
So what's January winter in Norway like compared to Minnesota winters?
If you're in the Duluth area, it feels right at home.
Okay.
The terrain is just like it is over there. The weather is very bitter and cold at night, and humid but pleasant and warm during the day. Okay. You got to dress in layers. We got to go visit a mine while we were there. We got to go. We spent a night in hell and then a night in heaven. Hell is a pun in Norwegian. It means hill.
Okay.
But they made a mock-up near Camp Varnus of hell, which was on a hill. Okay. And you got to let us play with the devils for a night, and then go visit the angels. Fed us full of hard liquor and good memories. Got to rub elbows with some big names. There were international attaches and people like that were present and recruiting. There were some opportunities that I didn't take advantage of that I probably should have, but it was a great experience. By that time, I think I had probably gotten my alert order, or I was just about to for the following summer. I was still in E4 at the time. And I was selected to go with. Oh, that was after I missed a deployment in there. I'm sorry. So I missed my 2003 annual training. So this would have been my third year in the Army, because I went to Kosovo, and I missed that whole chapter. So let's go back to that, because that was even before Sapper school.
Right.
K45 Bravo for me. That was the rotation I was on. I was selected to go with Redwood Falls to Kosovo. Little bit of background about that conflict. Slobodan Milosevic was a Serbian dictator who decided he didn't like Albanians and wanted to kill a lot of them. And they created a lot of ethnic tension in the Balkans and in the Serbia, Montenegro, and now Kosovo areas. There are mass graves and things found over there. I know musicians like James Blunt have written music about it. And it's truly a travesty. There's a lot of unnecessary suffering in that part of the world for no reason other than poverty and power struggles. So I was part of the securing force that came in to help the Serbs and the Albanians get along better, or to learn how to live with each other. We were part of a UN and a NATO peacekeeping mission, and so we started training down in Fort Stewart, Georgia. That was my first look at what other states had for National Guard resources, and I was rather unimpressed. For being Fort Stewart being a active duty post, it's not what I expected at all. Where we were housed, we were basically in bays, bunks, nuts to butts is a common phrase we used. But you make do.
What did you expect them to do for Minnesota National Guard?
Well, I expected it to be a little bit more like Camp Ripley. Camp Ripley's got a lot of nice features. It's got nice barracks and billeting. And
I've stayed in those little tin huts.
Well, the tin huts are there, but I mean, you're not going to spend any time in those. You're going to be there for maybe a weekend or a short duration, unless they're trying to put you through some misery on purpose. And in pre-mob, you're not. The focus isn't how to teach you how to be a soldier anymore. It's how to get you through the next battle. Mm-hmm. So they're not teaching you how to be a soldier anymore. They're teaching you how to survive in combat or a potential combat situation. Sure. So as peacekeepers, we weren't really training necessarily for full-on combat, but you never know when a sniper's going to pop out or whatever. So they're giving you a broad range of skills to set you up for success on your future mission. And all of your training down in Mississippi, down in Georgia, all of my training down in Georgia was geared towards that. So the billeting was awful, the food was even worse.
So what? You didn't like it, but if it was nice, and then you would have went on deployment, wouldn't have that set up you for failure? Like, comfort, like nice billets.
I don't think the misery was necessary for pre-deployment training. And why I say that is there are times that we need to be faced with adversity in training, but then there's also some time that we need to decompress. And right before a big mission might not be the best time to have everybody on edge.
Why not?
Well, because while we have to be tested as soldiers under stressful conditions, pre-mob training is kind of too late. They've made their decision as to who can act in combat because that's how they draw up the list.
Yeah.
Of who's shipping. So why add that extra nonsense? Even in Sapper school, they fed us like kings for 2 weeks before they put us through misery. Why not before deployment?
Cost per soldier needs to stay down.
But you're trying to keep those soldiers as fit and as sharp as you can.
Ideally. But
Do you want to bang them up in training before they get there?
I don't know. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I'm merely just asking questions to maybe provoke some other leaders to think about it.
Yeah.
Because there are times when that misery and that uncomfortableness is necessary for us to grow and develop as leaders and as soldiers. But there's other times where
because comfort is subjective.
Fair.
So, I mean, Fort Leonard Wood, there was that was the only standard we knew because that was all we had. And then we went back to Minnesota or back to North Dakota, and we had Camp Grafton, and there's a lot of tin huts there.
Mm-hmm. I've been there.
And then I deployed we went to Fort Riley, and that base was not enjoyable, and which makes me question, like, why should I have an enjoyable experience as a soldier training for war? Mm-hmm. Like that, why is that required? Well, it's not. Okay. But
we all know
compared
that
to the other experiences, Riley was like not it, right? So you do your training, get in and out as fast as you can. And then we went to Fort Irwin, NTC. Mm-hmm. We were sleeping on bunks under the circus tents. Mm-hmm. And like that was a better overall experience. And it wasn't, because it was out in the desert. And
NTC reminded me a lot of Kuwait, but we'll get to that later.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I can, if I didn't like Fort Riley, and if that's how you didn't like Georgia, yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, it was miserable, but we got through it. And we were in the crowd that hadn't spoiled it for the rest of them yet. So we were still allowed to drink during our off time. I think for pre-mob training, they did a lot of really good things that made us successful. Most of us had never driven an up armored Humvee before, so we got some experience doing that.
That wasn't part of your weekend training?
No.
Really?
Nor was the European driving test, trying to get your license for Europe. I never got mine. So I couldn't drive in Kosovo because I couldn't pass the European test. Well, all the signs are in German. They did a good job of giving us that next level of training and bringing in a lot of those basic soldier skills to that level 2 to level 3 step. You know what I mean? So you take your marksmanship and you take some of your first aid stuff that you learn and you take some of the things that you're learning about logistics and you start to pool them and you start to see how they come together. And for me, the pre-deployment for Kosovo is where some of that started to happen for me. Eventually, we were put on pass. I got to come home for a couple of days, spend my birthday and Christmas at home. And then right after New Year's Eve, we were back on a plane to go to Germany.
What were the missions like in Kosovo then?
I got a fun story about Germany quick first. Germany, I was in Hohenfels, Germany for 1 month. It was my first time in Europe. We made a couple of layovers on the way there, and they parked us on a hill or a mountain. I don't know the terrain around Hohenfels very well, but we were on a peak. And they had a bunch of tents set up in the rain. And the night before there was a bad storm that had come through, tore apart all the tents that we were about to stay in, and it even ripped the top off of the chow hall, the only warm tent really in the area we were staying. And so before we could even put our tents and our gear away and start unpacking from the flight, we had to dig trenches around our tents. We had to try to figure out how to run heaters that we had never run before. There was one diesel heater for every 2 tents, and it wasn't enough. I got the opportunity to call my mom, and from what she told me, she got off the phone and she cried because of the description of how things were. It was so bitter cold, and it was so wet, and it was so miserable, and I hated life. But I knew I was there to go do something, and I knew I had to do it in order to get to the next step, and I did it. And there was a bit of culture shock there. There was a bit of there was a lot of learning that happened because I didn't know German very well, and so I had to take a kind of a crash course from wherever I could to learn some German words. I'd sang some music in choirs that I'd been in as a youth and in college, and so I knew some German words. I knew the proper pronunciations for the German dialect. I just didn't know the words of the language. And so I had to take some time and learn a couple of words and start to learn how to communicate in a different language, and got, not proficient at it, but well enough I could fumble through a couple words by the time we got to Munich before we went to Kosovo. So we did get to spend a day in Munich. Me and a friend of mine walked around and saw a couple of shops. We went, I think we went to the Hofbrauhaus and drank out of some German steins. We went through Olympic Park and got to visit that. Got to meet a pretty girl at a camera shop that still sticks out of my mind. She knew a little bit of English and I knew a little bit of German. We muddled through the conversation and it was fun. But so that was Germany. And then so fast forward to the end of January, beginning of February, we get boots on the ground in Kosovo and shit's real. I was in the company headquarters because I'd come from Battalion HQ. I had a little bit of radio knowledge, a little bit of radio etiquette, and performed pretty well. Still scoring well on PT. I hadn't been to Sapper school yet, but it was in the back of my mind that was something I wanted to do.
Okay, so what did you guys do in Kosovo?
Well, we got there and we did like a left seat, right seat ride with the occupying force that was there. I don't remember where they were from, but basically you take your 2 weeks and they do and you watch, then you do and they watch, and you get feedback on your performance based on the mission there. So my job was in the CP. I was part of the company headquarters. I wasn't advanced enough to be a part of any kind of plans or planning future ops type stuff yet. Right. But I was getting proficient at current ops. So I learned how to read a map. I learned how to post things on a map and create a common operating picture for our commander, our company commander, and then learned how to process and handle secret level material, even though I don't believe I had a secret clearance quite yet at that point. So I was in a CP learning how to be a soldier for the first time, learning how operations worked as a first time, learning current operations for the first time, and adapting and improving my process as a junior leader in our service.
What was the leadership telling you? I mean, weren't you at this point also asking, what are we doing here?
Yeah, so we did our left seat, right seat rides, and I got some ideas of what some of the missions were. We sent out basically non-combat combat patrols. So we were armed as though we were ready for a fight, but we weren't really necessarily expecting one. The mission wasn't movement to contact like it was later.
Presence patrols.
Right, there were presence patrols. We were doing surveillance for illegal wood cutting because a lot of the natural resources over there are scarce. A lot of the infrastructure over there is hit and miss, and it's not the same comfort level that we have over here. So protecting the natural resources of the Balkans area is important. Their water quality is terrible. They can't drink the water out of the streams, even if they wanted to. It all has to be boiled, it all has to be processed, and they don't have the infrastructure to do it. So another piece of the pie was for us to provide some of the civil infrastructure there. I was attached to a cavalry battalion as an engineer company, and I was in the company headquarters portion of that. So we had, I believe it was 2 platoons that were out doing different missions. So some of the presence patrols in the local populace, we were out doing civil interactions with local leaders. We were coordinating with other counterparts in other territories like the Swedes, excuse me. I did eventually spend some time on the Swedish base in a FOB, a forward operating base type scenario, where we embedded with them to help them secure their sector after some bad rioting during a civil disturbance that had happened there. And, if you want me to go into more detail about that, I can, or if you still want some more broad picture stuff, we can come back to it. One major accomplishment that our company made was that we did an explosive demolition of a bridge over there. We had platoons out there spalling rubble and getting ready to cut I-beams, taking measurements, and then doing an explosive drop of a major bridge. We were featured in the K4 magazine, and that was a big deal. I don't think I've ever seen a bridge in the U.S. dropped using explosives. And so one of our platoons got some really cool experience doing that, and I got to watch from the radio and track their movements and their progress as they did it, and that's pretty cool. While I was there, I also had the opportunity to go on a spur ride. At the time, I didn't realize that was a cool guy relevant thing. I just thought it was just another ring knocker, and it sounded like something fun. It was a 32 or a 36-hour mission. Nonstop, you're getting hit with task after task after task after task, and you, as an E4, you're taking notes from your brothers next door and going, okay, how could I cheat through this? Because I don't know CAV stuff at all. I'm an engineer. I'm the redheaded stepchild of the battalion, and I muddled through and I got it. They picked me up by my boots. They hung me upside down. They tapped some spurs on my soles, and I got to wear spurs for the rest of my career, and that was really cool. I was one of, I think, maybe only 3 soldiers in our company that even tried for and got them. It was a very small number of soldiers that tried for it, and that was cool.
Well, isn't it just hazing?
Well, it's hazing to a point, but it's not required. You don't have to go earn your spurs.
Right.
So is it hazing? Maybe, but you're not required to do it. You can drop out and say, I don't want to do this anymore at any time. And they'll say, okay, have a nice day.
Yeah. Well, so we were with the 4th ID in Iraq, and there was the 2-9 Cav, and one of my best friends, he's Cav Scout, which is no longer an MOS anymore, 19 Delta. And he was telling me about his spur ride, how they had, oh man, his name is Danny Miller. He said that they had to ride broomsticks to the chow hall, and that was their horse, and that was part of their spur ride.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. I mean, I remember being on top of a hill, and there was a Humvee there, and myself, I think I was paired with probably my first sergeant for that part of it. But I believe, well, no, he was later my first sergeant. He was a sergeant first class, Richard Johnson. Later became the battalion sergeant major for a short duration. But I always admired him as a leader, and I always got really good instruction and mentorship from him. So we were on a hill in the middle of Kosovo, fully live environment. We're all kitted up, and we're moving in battle buddy teams through the local populace. And there's these Humvees set up on this hill. We're doing land nav to it. You're told, go find this point, and okay, you go find this point, and there's some stuff there and a task to do there, and you don't know what it is till you get there. Or there's a task list and you're following it, and so you kind of know, but you don't really know. So they gave me a milk crate full of weapons parts, different weapons all mixed together. Didn't know what it was in a chem light that you weren't supposed to use, but it was in the bottom there, so you could kind of see a little bit, right? So me and the rest of my patrol put together those weapons in the dark and did a functions check and did all the different tasks, and that was our mission for that particular spot. And one task after another task, there was a tank firing mission, so we had to go to a tank simulator. And I'd never fired a tank. I'd never been in a tank. I'd never seen a tank controls. So, I got a guy nudging me going, hey, say this. and then that's how I got through that task. I didn't know how to do a call for fire. I didn't know the fire commands, but I followed the directions of the guys around me, and I modeled through and got it. And yeah, there was some dumb hazing. There was some PT. I know we did a run around Camp Monteith, which is now no longer in existence. It was near Pristina, or was Pristina the capital? I don't remember right now. I'd have to check a map. Somebody can fact check me later. But Camp Monteith was where we were stationed. And yeah, they ran us around, made us do goofy exercises. We might have rode brooms to and from the chow. I don't remember. But it was ridiculousness, and it was fun, and it was cool. And my feet hurt like crazy when I was done, but I got my spurs.
So do you have the Stetson too?
I don't have a Stetson. No.
Okay.
I wasn't a Cav Scout. I was offered the opportunity to buy one, but I didn't know what it took to earn one, and I never pursued it.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I never had any of those chances.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's go into you said you deployed to Iraq, right?
Eventually, yeah. So after, so fast forward back to 2007, we were just getting done with my Norex exchange, and I got selected for conditional promotion to E5. So at the time, it was different than how it works now. You were promoted into a soft slot for deployment, and if you could get a hard slot back at home station, you got to keep your rank. They promoted you before they trained you. They put you through training, and then you went through the training as an E5. And
did you get your E5 pay on deployment though?
Getting to that. So I was during the primo drills, I was selected for an E5 slot. I wore E4 until they didn't really use corporal much back then. I think we do a better job of using corporal now than what they did from my units back at that time. So I was a conditional E5. I got paid as an E5. I went to WLC.
Where at?
That was in Camp Shelby, Mississippi.
I'm sorry.
Yep, just outside of Hattiesburg. And so I went through that, and after Sapper school, WLC was dumb. It was a waste of time for me. I shouldn't say it's a waste of time, but it was a lower level of training than what I had already received, and it made it very, very simple.
Yeah.
So out of the 400 plus students that was there for my WLC class, I was the Distinguished Honor Grad. I hit all my marks in stride. I passed all my tests with ease. The land nav course was a joke. I boxed the points and made a fool out of them. I did their 3-hour course in half an hour. It was simple. I came back to my company. I walked basically down the road from WLC to mobilization training. Got my commander's coin for being the Distinguished Honor Grad, my company commander's coin, and eventually earned a hard slot as an E5. I don't remember what company I was with for that though, because I never ended up there. So we did our pre-mob training down in Mississippi. That was definitely a higher level of training than what I got in Georgia. It was really more combat relevant. You were doing the glass box stuff. You were learning how to move like a SWAT team. You were doing a 4-man stack. I learned how to give an IV on the fly in the back of a Humvee doing 30 on a dirt road that was not flat. And I did it. I got combat lifesavers qualified. We were sticking and giving IVs back then, and we used to do it for fun.
Yeah.
They don't allow us to do that anymore, and it's neither here nor there. It's a good skill to have. It's maybe not necessary right now.
We used to do them every Sunday after drill because Saturday night was pretty rough.
I had a few of those Sunday morning.
Sunday. Yep. Combat Lifesaver Sunday.
CLS research. Oh, we got bags that need to be expired or that are about to expire. Who needs a drink?
Yeah, one drill weekend, it was a Christmas party. This was with the 817th. And maybe I shouldn't tell the story. It's Christmas party. The guys had to help me back to my hotel room, I guess.
I've had a few of those.
And then I woke up and the guys were in my hotel room. They're like, wake up, we need to be back. And the rule was, you guys can party and drink after drill, but the moment you miss formation, no more partying. And so we all took care of each other to make sure we could continue to party on drill weekends. And it was, the rule was you have to stand up in formation in your own uniform, full uniform, at formation without being late. The next one, like whatever time it was. And I was there. I made it.
You smelled like the bar, but you were in uniform.
And then right after formation, I had 2 IVs in me. I remember one night after a Christmas party or some kind of party, we were in dress blues or dress greens, and I was up in Moorhead. This is after deployment, and I was decompressing from deployment, as they may say, or just trying to hide my pain, and drinking a lot. Puke and rally was a thing, and you throw up. Okay, fine. You take a couple shots of Rumpelmans and keep going. Oh boy, yeah. Why did I tell that story? Christmas party, drinking. Oh, CLS, combat lifesaver stuff. Okay, so
so we were in pre-mob training. Do we want to go back to pre-mob in Mississippi, or do we want to fast forward to Kuwait?
So what did you know about your mission?
Well, I knew that we were going to Iraq. We were going somewhere in Iraq. We knew we were going to be engineers there. We knew that we didn't have all the fancy toys because we were National Guard. But we were also National Guard, so we knew how to work with whatever we got left with.
Well, they give you all the clearance vehicles in country.
In country, right. And so we got to walk around in MRAP. We got to drive the Humvees, and Humvees is primarily what we used. We didn't really...
What year?
This was in 07, 08.
Okay, so I mean, you would have had RG-31s, you would have had Buffaloes.
Yeah, we didn't have any of that.
Well, we did.
We had up-armored Humvees.
So were you tasked with route clearance? We had buffaloes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was our mission.
Route clearance really wasn't what we did as a primary. It was more of a, oh, you're going down this road, so you're clearing this route, but you're also doing movement to contact. You're also you're making sure that the local populace is getting paid for their work that they're doing at these checkpoints. We're meeting with the sheikhs and the local civil leaders to try to improve their infrastructure.
What?
We're helping.
You said your headquarters, right?
Well, not for Iraq, no.
Okay. So were you like hearts and minds? Like what?
Well, during pre-mob, I didn't really know, but by the time we got into the country, I did. So when we finally got to Iraq, we did the left seat, right seat, ride again thing, and Kosovo was a really good training mission, really, for me anyway. It got me a taste of what patrolling was like. I ended up doing some cool work with the JAG office because I had some free time on my hands and they needed soldiers to complete their mission, so I jumped in with them and took advantage of that and got to do some cool stuff with them.
What's cool stuff with the JAG office?
Well, the JAG office got to meet with the local judges who were trying criminals for war crimes. And so I got to hear...
So you're an engineer hanging out with the JAGs.
Right. Because they needed a gun.
Okay.
And I was a gun. And I had time and my commander said, yeah, go ahead. And so as long as they coordinated, I got to go do stuff that none of the other engineers were doing. I got to go and meet with the local Armani shop and have a couple of custom suits made for me and my dad.
Experiences may vary.
Yes. Like I said, Kosovo was kind of a training mission. Iraq was very different.
Okay, so what base did you fly into? You're probably, okay, Kuwait was Buehring.
Yeah, yep.
And then where?
So we ended up in Biop. We were the
Baghdad International Airport.
Yep. We were the closest, we were the only National Guard unit to own land that close to Baghdad. Everybody else was way out in the sticks. We had Tampa Yankee intersection. I don't know if you're familiar with Tampa Yankee at all from your route clearance times, but that was a hot spot. People like to drop IEDs
So
there.
We were in Balad, and we patrolled halfway to Baghdad, to Taji, and then back up.
Okay, so you never got down to Tampa Yankee. That was south of Baghdad, near the airport.
No, we had Talil, and then we flew, landed in Balad, and ran out of Anaconda the whole time.
So we had kind of a dual tasking. Part of our mission was base security for the special forces. I don't know how much I can really share about that or how much I should share about that, but I'll give you a little bit. We did tower guard for them. They also had local nationals that they hired for that task as well. So we kind of kept an eye on them, but that was more their job. I ran a checkpoint for base security, basically an entry control point to BIOP that was directly into the Special Forces base. All of the local nationals that lived in the local economy came through that checkpoint, had to be physically searched, had to have any vehicles they were bringing on base searched. And so that was one piece of our mission as the Litchfield unit of the 682nd. The other part of our mission, and so one platoon did that task while the other platoon cycled in and out on a monthly rotation doing missions. And our missions consisted of go outside the wire, go clear the Tampa Yankee intersection. We've got a blimp up that's got eyes on it.
A blimp?
Yeah, we had this like blimp we called the J-Lens that had cameras and stuff on it that could zoom way in and go see stuff that, you know, so if the guy out there that was planting an IED or doing something suspicious that we wanted to go take a look at, we had eyes and ears on it. And so then they would send us out to go see, okay, what was that farmer doing? Was he just planting or was he planting something? So we did a lot of that. We went and checked out weapons caches. We found some. One found us. We did, like I said, we met with local checkpoint workers. And what those checkpoint workers were doing is they were basically doing vehicle searches of their own. So imagine the police doing a sobriety checkpoint somewhere. I don't know if they do those in Minnesota. I know when I lived in South Dakota, they did. And basically,
I've never been to a sobriety checkpoint.
They would set up a blockade, and every car that was on that road for a set period of time had to come through that checkpoint and get a breathalyzer. Or for us, it was searched for weapons, for all the IDs.
Who searched?
In this case, it was the local nationals that did it, but we did it as well as part of our mission based on what our command directed us for.
So you let was it Iraqi National Guard or Iraqi Army?
It was Iraqi local nationals, Iraqi civilians.
Okay.
We gave them AKs, we gave them weapons, and said, each household is allowed one AK. So I would assume that they probably brought their own, and we funded it. Maybe I don't know exactly how they got equipped, but it was probably our money doing it. Basically, we brought them out water and supplies for their checkpoint to make sure that they could do their job. We escorted out the guys who paid them. Basically, they took an ammo can full of American cash or euros. I think it was euros. And every checkpoint worker got 100 or 150 or 300 euros for the work that they did for that month. And I don't remember what the exact dollar amount was, but it was somewhere in that vicinity. And that was enough to support their family on that economy. So we were providing an opportunity for locals to gain some wealth and some stability to motivate them not to join the terrorist organizations. So that was some of the hearts and the minds piece that we did. But on the flip side, we also did some damage to our reputation. We would go in with the sheikh's approval and do permissive searches of the house. So imagine having a bunch of German soldiers come into your home and toss it, like police officers would with a search warrant.
Or cowboys coming into camp and tearing up a bunch of teepees.
It would be very similar, yes.
Yeah, I can imagine how disruptive that would be.
At least in our case, we checked with the local leadership. In the native instance that you're talking about, we just took it.
I'm aware. I'm aware of what history says.
Right. So, the method is improved. It's still not perfect. Did we set the house back in order when we were done? No.
So how many deployments do you have in Iraq?
Just one really long one.
Okay. So what are the highlights of your deployment in Bayat?
We landed there. We stayed in Saddam's palace. I re-enlisted on top of one of Saddam's palaces. I can't even find it on the map anymore.
Do you have a photo from that?
I used to.
Okay. You should send it to me if you have it. We can put it on the video.
If I can ever find it.
Okay.
I don't know if I ever will.
All right.
And that's too bad.
Were you guys in ACUs? The goofy digital crap that we had to wear?
Yeah.
Had to have been.
Yep.
So what did you think about that uniform? You had.
I thought that in Sapper school we looked like snow bunnies in the woods. So I tried my.
Oh, so you had that in country?
Not for Kosovo. What we did for Iraq.
Did you guys get DCUs?
We transitioned into the digital camouflage while I was in Sapper school. So I had both for Sapper school. I was lucky. I could blend in a little better. But on the days where you wore your ACUs, it was ugly. Or maybe I'm getting the acronym wrong. The digital.
Yeah, ACUs.
Yep. ACUs, okay.
I can't remember if it was the Army combat uniform or it was the advanced combat uniform. I think it was Army. Because it was.
But I don't recall.
I remember seeing it when I was signing up. They had the marketing. They had the cardboard cutouts of this new uniform, and it was to a sophomore in high school. It was like, whoa, cool.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know it was a money grab at the time. I'm like, oh, hey, if I had a business, and my business could create and convince the United States military, Army, that every soldier now needs a new uniform, 4 sets per uniform, per soldier, and charge them X amount of money, that'd be a great deal.
Yeah.
That'd be wonderful.
General Shinseki was very smart.
Oh, goodness. And then if I had another company, I would convince the Navy to do it, the Marine Corps to do it, the Air Force to do it twice.
The Marines, because they had a better color scheme.
Yeah, Marpet. Yeah, I'm a gear guy. I'm a tech guy, and so when it came to uniform and looks. I was like, oh yeah, they have way better than us. And then the Navy and NSW got a whole new pattern. And then the multicam, Scorpion came out, and then Cry Precision created their own multicam pattern that has vertical and horizontal, all that stuff. But did you get the DCU, the deserts?
They didn't. Instead, what they did is they made us walk around on base in the ACUs, and then for missions, they put us in basically what would look kind of like a dumbed down flight suit, an FR onesie.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember. I think it zipped up the front, and then you wore a combat shirt underneath that. But that was your fire retardant layer.
Weird.
So we had those for the majority of our deployment. And then we wore our body armor over that with our kit and everything.
So that's what the Bearcats 2136. That's what they did. They wore because they ran Bradleys.
Yep.
So they had the full onesie suits. But we, gosh, no 05.
We didn't have an issue.
We got issued 4 sets of DCUs, 4 sets of ACUs, and we had our BDUs. So we had, at minimum, 12 pairs of uniforms. And we were able to buy those Under Armour stretchy, melt to your skin, apparently, if your vehicle catches on fire.
Yep.
Kind of.
They were banned by the time I got there.
Right. So we had all those shirts, the sexy shirts.
Yeah,
and,
that's what we call them too.
And yeah, we just wore our regular tops. It was, and so when these new uniform styles are coming out, where it was just camo on the arms and the mesh moisture wicking, where the body armor, we're like, what? Like, must be nice,
right.
Like, wow, that's cool. So, but like me being on deployment, my mind was not on the bigger picture of the mission. My mind was on the stupid stuff. Like, I was the youngest in my unit, and so my mind was not being a hardcore warrior. It was looking like a cool guy on mission. I had Oakleys on my helmet. Oakley. Were they snowboarding goggles? I don't know. I got a photo of, but they were orange lenses. And
I've got a good one coming out of the box at NTC with my TC hat on, on top of a 577. I think it was a 577, but it was the bigger version, the command version of the 113.
Oh yeah, yep.
The taller one. And
the 113 is troop transport.
Yes.
Yep, little coffin on tracks. Yep, the most inefficient, stupidest engineer vehicle ever made.
Yep.
But it's fun. Everyone should that should be everyone's first training vehicle. You want to learn how to drive your first track vehicle? Have it a 113. Yep. We goofed around in those things so much. Gosh, we tried to jump this gap on this training area. It did not go according to plan. I was standing up in the back. You know how you have this hatch that opens so you can all stand up.
Yep.
And you're holding on, whatever. Well, there's this like radio box or where you plug in all your headsets. And he tried to jump this gap. I think it was Shepard. Anyways, hold on. And you could hear that thing just spiel out, and then poof, it did not span the gap. It hit nose first.
Oh.
And I'm holding on, and as soon as he hit, like I just got slammed forward, and that radio box just hit me in the chest. Oh, they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." Oh. Well, our sergeant, because we got put in the rear, the deploying unit took off that we got attached to. And so there was just like a handful of us from our deployment that are now in the rear, and we're just a bunch of misfits goofing off on drill weekend. That's all we're doing. We're drinking, training, having crazy times. And we have this sergeant, this E6 or E7 that's in charge of us. And he has all this money somehow to get these cool things for us to do. And well, he was watching everything we were doing with binoculars. And so, because we thought we took off, we're like, whatever, so we're going to goof off. And we had paintballs, We had paintball guns, and we were hanging out of the door, shooting our paintball guns. And we have everything parked, and he comes rolling up, and he comes over to me, and, you know, he comes and he's like, how's it going? He pats me on the chest. I'm like, good. Oh, shoot. And he's like, yeah, I bet you are. And everyone's like, how does he know? He's like, it's like 6 or 7, you know, we're preparing to sleep out in that area. He's like, well, you guys get everything wrapped up. Before he even finished his sentence, guys were starting to pack the vehicles. Like we were loading up. And he's like, all right, 10 minutes. Yeah, we can go stay in town. I can get in the building in town. We're like, perfect. So our drill weekend ended up in town at the bar, obviously, you know. But those 113s, oh man, that box that hit my chest, oh, that hurt. That hurt. I think that was the last time I was in a 113. You can't jump a 113.
No, you shouldn't.
I don't know if there's YouTubers out there that are. Please don't try to jump a 113. That's not going to work out well for you.
No,
I don't even think Whistling Diesel or whatever that dude is. That Whistling Diesel, I think that's the name. Whistling. Anyways, he just got in trouble for apparently tax evasion on a Ferrari. But I would, if I could challenge anybody to do something crazy with a 113, it would be him. He made the Killdozer replica.
Really?
Yeah. So that's a pretty cool video. Anyways, shouting out other YouTubers. All right. Okay, so deployment.
There's a little bit more left on deployment. So I don't know if you want to consider it a highlight per se, but let's talk about some of the stuff I encountered on mission. I taught myself pre-deployment Arabic, and so I knew enough to get me in trouble. I knew all the cuss words. I knew
Ishta.
Basic commands.
Imshi.
Yep. But I knew I knew how to count. I knew a lot of the other stuff too, because I put in extra work before deployment to figure it out.
Okay.
I couldn't read it, but I didn't have to. We had terps. But I got the opportunity to fact check my interpreter one time. We were out on patrol and pulled over this white car that was acting kind of funny or suspicious. We searched it, you know, like normal. And opened up the glove box, and there's about 20 different IDs, all with the same picture. And so this guy's dirty. We call the IPs, and we start questioning him. And our terp's there, and I hear him use some language that I won't repeat on camera. And our interpreter was female, and she chose not to use those words as well. And, you know, we were coached that the interpreters are supposed to interpret exactly what the person says, not sugarcoat it. And my battle buddy, another E5, was there, and I said, hey, Sergeant, you know what he just said to you? And he goes, what's that? He said, he wants to put something somewhere that it doesn't belong. We'll put it that way. Only I use the actual words. And all of a sudden, my interpreter was standing right next to him. She went white. You know, all you can see is this much of her. And she's like, oh, how did he know that? And I said, well, I confronted her first. I said, you want to tell him what he really said? And she repeated how she translated it sugarcoatedly. And I said, hey, Sergeant Briscoe. And then it was like, oh. The whole tone of the interaction changed after that. You know, and we handed him over to the IPs, and what they did with him, I don't want to know.
Dude, that probably saved. So if there's a butterfly effect for any action like that, that could have been a massive positive butterfly effect where your interpreter knows now, oh crap, this guy knows some Arabic. I can't fluff. Okay. Right, yeah. Well,
without I mean, I sometimes will use
that's a big deal. That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Like, dude, good on you.
Well, that's what a junior leader is supposed to do, right? I was in E5. I was in a hard slot by then, and little did I know I was about to get my E6 before I left country.
Yeah, I didn't know any of my leaders. I knew we knew a handful of things, but I didn't know any of our guys that could actually cross-check an interpreter. That's a big deal.
Well, I didn't, like I said, I've never been fluent in Arabic, but during my time at the checkpoint, I had enough interactions with local nationals that they taught me the local slang.
Mm-hmm.
We were just joking around. They had this little dog they brought in once in a while. That's how I figured out I was allergic to dogs.
Oh no.
Yeah. I just noticed that all of a sudden, whenever the dog was around, my nose was all goofy. So, okay, well, time to start taking some loratadine.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I learned some of the local dialect. I tied that in with some of the traditional learnings I learned online, and I was able to at least give enough direction to non-English speakers to be able to communicate my intent and do so in a way that they could understand. And so I couldn't necessarily fact check always my interpreter, but if somebody was using rough language, I knew enough rough language to know that, hey, we're missing a piece of the puzzle here. And I think it's a significant one.
It's a big deal. So there's, I watched the Sean Ryan podcast recently with the guy who used the pseudonym Mark Owen. And he said that the part of the movie when they got bin Laden, that his one of the other shooters whispered Khalid's name in the language, whispered it, because they know that there's a helicopter crashed outside, there's guys entering the house, like how there's no way these American, whoever they are gonna whisper my name, right? And just natural human curiosity, like if someone be like, Joseph, I'd be like, what? Like I think anybody would, right? Like, and the moment Khalid apparently heard his name whispered from this other operator, he peeked out his head and he had an AK with him, and boom, got him, whispered it. But he learned how to say his name in the language, and that saved that whole interaction. Like, who knows what damage could have been done if it would have been just your standard, like, boom, 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 let's bust the door open kind of thing. But learning the language, you saw the benefit of that interaction. And
well, I had experience already trying to communicate with local nationals that I couldn't from my time in Kosovo, and that frustrated me. And so it allowed me to better prepare myself for the next mission, which was Iraq.
I'm sure there's respect that also gets conveyed from the culture, the people, to you, to an American, because aren't we viewed as big dumb Americans?
Right. And not only am I speaking in Arabic, but I'm speaking it in their dialect. So I'm able to enunciate the words the way they do. And that's a pretty rare gift that I believe God gave me, and I'm fortunate to be able to use that to my benefit.
That's awesome. So we don't have a lot of time left, but
well, I ended up extending in country. So the Arkansas guys came in. I got into a little bit of trouble for missing a hard time. Had a vehicle go down and wasn't able to communicate well with my squad leader. He fired me from being a squad leader, tried to bust me from 5 to 4, and I got my 6 instead. But that's another fun story, maybe for another day. I ended up earning a Ranger School slot from them, and the state eventually.
Who's them?
The Arkansas National Guard.
Okay.
So while I was in theater, they held a.
What? Okay. Do you remember the unit?
I can remember members of the unit. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. They were infantry. Texarkana is a town that sticks out in my mind that a lot of the guys are from.
Okay, because I have a buddy who's Arkansas. His name is Brian Williams. Went basic training with him.
Okay.
And
that name actually sounds familiar.
Okay. Well, Brian Williams, if you're watching, do a shout out.
But yeah, so I extended in country. I got a Ranger School slot from them. The state then agreed when I got home to pay for it, and so I demobbed. I did that. I got my 6th slot, and that was up in Moorhead, and that's where our paths I think may have crossed a couple of times, but not quite directly.
In Fargo?
Moorhead. I was part of the 2136 Bearcats. I was in. I spent about 7 years, I think.
So I said no to Detroit Lakes because they put me as a grenadier, or no, they sent me a mortarman. I'm like, no, I'm not 11 Charlie. I joined up to be 11 Bravo, and I think the recruiters did put me as 11 Charlie, but somehow I was able to twist, my disagreement enough they slotted me as 11 Bravo instead, and so they put me in Bemidji because I didn't show up to Detroit Lakes like I think that's what the paperwork said. I showed up to Bemidji, and I had a brown T-shirt under my ACUs because you still wear brown T-shirts when I got out, and I had my North Dakota patch. And when I showed up there, it was all Red Bull. They all had tan T-shirts underneath, and I saw our mutual acquaintance, and he's like, "The hell are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm the new infantry guy." They're like, "No, you're not." And they're like, "The hell? Like, what's that patch?" I'm like, "Oh, it's North Dakota patch." And so they went and they got a Red Bull patch, and they're like, "Here, okay, now you're looking better. Now you need a tan T-shirt. You're out of uniform." I'm like, "Well, this is the uniform." I knew what was like, but I stayed in Bemidji the whole time for 2136 Able Company.
And so I ended up as the recon sergeant. So I was the only engineer in the whole battalion. Got to go to NTC with them. Spent a lot of time.
One of two. I was an engineer too.
Oh, fair enough. But I had the only enlisted engineer slot in the battalion.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So I stand corrected. I apologize.
So we were the two engineers.
Right.
Yeah, with the infantry. Got
and
it.
then I had an engineer officer as a counterpart. And I didn't really know what a recon sergeant was, and I don't think they did either. So throughout the course of my career, I tried to develop that slot into a staff slot, which was later taken away, and I ended up in Hutchinson as a squad leader. I had some troubles getting prepared to go to E6 school. I first
ALC?
ALC, is that what
Advanced, yeah. So there's WLC and ALC. WLC is for E5, ALC is for E6.
Right, okay. What did I say, SLC?
No, you said your E6 school.
Okay. Well, I got to phase 1 down in North Dakota. No.
Camp Grafton?
No, it was in Nebraska. Little hole in the wall National Guard base down there. And breezed through that pretty easily. That was the general skill stuff that I'd already learned on deployment and whatever. But I didn't make the dean's list, and I was upset. So,
the dean's list?
Yeah, the commandant's list. I was one question off.
Okay.
Literally, that's what it came down to. And then I went. I tried to get ready for the second phase, ALC phase 2, and I failed to meet the mission again. And I didn't get recycled into a slot again until I got back, got over to Hutchinson and got back with the engineers. I was given a choice: either become infantry and stay here, or go to the engineers and continue to blow stuff up and be awesome. And so I said, okay, I'll go keep blowing stuff up and be awesome. But I got to take all the staff lessons that I learned from the Bearcats with me and use those in my TLPs as I learned how to be a squad leader and a leader again for troops. A couple cool things I did while I was in Moorhead. I was a part of a couple of flood missions. 2 of them for sure I was on state orders for. I know one I showed up for, but I wasn't on orders for. And the other one, I don't know if they counted it or if it was just a drill or how it was. But there was 4 years that I participated in flood duty up there.
Yeah, I did 2009.
Some respect.
Red River flood.
I also developed a urban breaching course for all of the dismounts and all of the scouts to go through, and they all did. We got to use inert demo and did knot tying, and I showed them some charges, and was never able to get them onto a demo range. But later, as a squad leader, I was the RSO for a range or just a range safety, something to that degree. And I got to do the remedial training for the Bearcats that were now coming down to use live explosives for the first time. Nice. And that felt really, really cool as an ending portion chapter, as closure to part of my mission as a recon sergeant up there.
So I ended up my time with the 343rd, or is it? No, 334th BSTB. They reclassed to the Brigade Special Troop Battalion. I was so engineers with Bradleys. So I went from being a Bradley dismount with the 2136 Able Company, got my blue cord, promoted E5, sent back to the engineers. Had to take off my blue cord. And then now I'm in a Bradley with engineers learning how to run Bradleys, even though I know how to. And so I was tasked as a dismount leader because I knew everything about the Bradley. They sent me to Bradley gunner school. And
now, I had no Bradley experience before I got to.
It's a 113 with a gun.
Well, I know that, but I like.
Which I'm sure they would hate me saying that, but it's not a tank. It's a troop transport with a gun, a chain gun, yeah.
But I ended up
infantry fighting vehicle.
Vehicle through evaluator slot, and I don't think I performed all that well, but I don't think anybody ever told me. So basically, during gunnery, there's coaches and there's evaluators who listen to the gunnery commands and how well you shoot and
that's the course I went through. Yeah, I went through that too.
Yeah. So that was fun. But I think I messed up some paperwork somewhere along the way, and nobody ever told me. Eventually, I was no longer allowed to be a VCE, and nobody told me why. But I did take some time to go and become a subject matter expert on some other great engineer tools. I was the trainer for our engineer recon kit. I was the trainer and helped install many of the Crow systems that are still in use here in Minnesota. I got to use some state-of-the-art, I call them landmines, but they're not technically landmines. They're a field munition.
Right.
And I won't talk much more about that on camera. But
well, we can break this into a one of 2-part interviews.
If you want to.
Because I don't want to rush your retirement, getting out at 20 years, and we can do that as a teaser for part 2.
Sure.
So if there's anybody you'd recommend for this podcast, who do you know?
I've reached out to my local DAV.
Mm-hmm.
So far, they haven't really gotten me any names or anything like that. I have a friend of mine who is a helicopter pilot and used to be a medic. He worked with me down at the checkpoint.
Okay.
You can edit out his name if you want to. I don't know. Or maybe get in contact with him. But I know him as Specialist Schmalz.
Okay.
I know he eventually became either a warrant officer. I think he became a warrant officer, but he may have become a fully commissioned officer. I'm not 100% sure, but he's out there flying choppers now, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because the whole premise, like the whole purpose of this podcast, is just to get our stories out, the non-special forces community, and I'm not anti-special forces. It's just there's a group of us that are not Rangers, or not SEALs, all that have cool deployment stories, and the National Guard isn't being represented very well on on YouTube for veteran stories.
You know First Sergeant Shraga?
I do.
You know Sergeant Major Mansky?
Yeah.
Also probably both great candidates.
And it's a little difficult, to like, these soldiers they're professional guardsmen. They're humble, they did their job.
Richter.
Yeah, and then it's like,
Urgent.
do you cross the line and go on an interview? And how do you be humble and also get interviewed at the same time? And so there's guys I know that want to tell their story, but they don't want to be on camera because for any reason, that's a good reason. But for the generation that's coming in, how do you get to know what's happening? Like I feel weird being out for 20 years. Like it's 20 years ago was my deployment. That's strange. I feel like I should have gray hair.
Well,
I feel like I should be way older than I am. But, and so my dad's 80. Yeah, he's going to be 85, and he was in Vietnam, Cuban Missile Crisis, the old Navy, let's say.
I've got a lot of family members that are in the military.
And so,
I mentioned my grandfather was in Korea. He was he was an engineer, horizontal engineer. That set him up for success later on in life using heavy equipment here. My cousin passed away up at Camp Ripley, Travis Larsen. But maybe some of his family wants to share some of his story.
Yeah.
But I'll leave that to them to tell. There was one more that my cousin's Matthew and Joseph. Both are veterans and have served. Matt was a career Air Force guy, and Joe was he ended up doing a bunch of stuff with the DEA, looking for illegal marijuana grows and things in the Kentucky area, and I think he's a guardsman as well. I don't remember if he served actual active duty time or just active National Guard time, but I bet he's got a bunch of really cool stories that even I don't know.
Right. Hey, it was a pleasure having you. Our stories matter, your experience matters, and I just want to set up the next generation coming in to want to serve our country with some good content to consume, and so they can get a broader view of what the military is and what we've done.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks for having me out.
Thanks.
I really appreciate it.
We'll do a part 2, and then we'll get the rest of the story.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
I look forward to part 2. Thanks.
Okay. Sounds good.